I'm sure you've seen all the news that GM sent a letter to the dealerships talking about not charging over MSRP. As a former Chevrolet salesperson, one of the top 4 Corvette, I wanted to discuss this letter to you guys and give you my opinion, because after all, buying a car doesn't have to suck. So to begin with, there's always a lot of rumors out there, and I don't do rumors on this channel, so I can say for sure that this letter has been actually confirmed as I have it right from GM right here. And that's the biggest thing that I get from this, is that it is not just somebody making something up to try to put pressure on dealers for a roundabout way to say, hey, dealers, don't charge us over MSRP, the Z06 is coming up. But this doesn't just have to go with the Z06. Chevrolet and General Motors is launching a lot of vehicles that are brand new and important. And if the dealerships are sitting here, don't expect to pay MSRP even 2 or 3 years down the road from now, that's when General Motors is going to step in and say, hey, listen, we got to protect our brand. We got to protect our company, because we're spending billions and billions and billions of dollars, and we want to sell these cars. So the Silverado EV, the Hummer EV, the Equinox EV.
Everything is EV.
Yeah,
EV,
everything's
EV,
EV, right? So that's so important to General Motors, and that's where this letter is coming from. And some of the verbiage that I saw in here was really interesting. We were talking about it off camera. It says, ethically and lawfully sell and promote the purchase, lease, and use of products by consumers. So what's the definition of ethically and lawfully in this case?
You can't be breaking the law.
Right, correct.
So
right.
as long as you're not breaking the law, and then ethics can be very subjective to a lot of people.
Yes, correct.
So not everybody has the same brand of ethics, which is why there's so many that cross the line to being unlawful.
Yes, correct. And when you get 4,000 Chevrolet dealers, or 4,000 plus GM dealers involved on this, everybody's going to have their own opinion. And then when you get these boards involved, and their dealer council boards and the dealer principals who own the dealers are the ones involved, they fight to have their rights protected as well. So when it comes to ethics, like she says, it's very subjective. And is selling a car over MSRP unethical? Most would argue no, right? Because
supply and demand.
It's simple economics, right? If it was unlawful, then people would be arrested, and it's not unlawful. So it's very subjective. And then the letter goes on to state, dealers will not advertise or conduct promotional activities in a misleading or unethical manner, or that is harmful to the reputation of the dealer, General Motors, and or its products. And the way dealers look at it is, hey, if I'm going to charge $5 grand, $10 grand, $35,000 over MSRP, then that is not harming my reputation. That's protecting my business, as I've spoke about before on the past on this channel.
Yes, but at the same time, it does harm, because consumers don't like paying those high prices, especially for a Chevy. That's what it all comes down to. It's a Chevy.
I don't like how you say it's just a Chevy. I love Chevy.
That's shocking.
Like that? If it was Lambo and all those other ones, people pay more money for.
I'll tell you what, speaking of Lamborghini, go buy a Lamborghini Urus for over MSRP from a dealer. It ain't happening. Lamborghini will not allow a dealership to sell a Urus over MSRP. That's why the used Uruses will go for way over original MSRP, because they can't conduct any type of audits or pullbacks from manufacturer levels. Says, hey, you can't sell a used car for this because it's market-based pricing. So, but that's going to get into the funny things is, if General Motors sits here and does this, dealers are going to find a loophole to get around this, right? The new car department will sell a new car to the used car department and go at it. If the dealership has
But would that fall under brokering?
It could. I don't know.
Which in the next part of the letter states that, you cannot sell to a broker.
Correct. I don't know, but that's where this verbiage is all left to interpretation. And I know I just said it, but dealers are very creative, and they're very good at getting around the loopholes to make sure that they can do what they want to do, and that's make profit. So the biggest thing is what's this letter really intended to do? Is this really to come back and hammer the dealers and say, you're on notice? Because that's what everybody's saying. That's what every single article out there saying is, dealerships, you're on notice, you better beware, or we're pulling your allocations.
I think it's GM's way of making consumers feel warm and fuzzy, and that they intend to do something, but at the same time, the only dealers that will be towing the line or actually, conforming are going to be ones who maybe just weren't doing a whole lot in the first place, or just really scared to do the wrong thing.
Yeah. I mean, do you think, since we're so involved with Corvette, do you really think a top 10 Corvette dealer, there are top 10 Corvette dealers out there charging over MSRP for cars. Do you seriously think that General Motors is going to come into a top 10 Corvette dealer and say, oh, you guys have been charging 20 grand over MSRP, we're yanking your allocations?
Probably not if they're actually selling them.
Nope, they're not. And so
it comes into, if the cars are sitting on the lots for 3-6 months and not being sold because of that markup, then, those dealers are probably going to be the ones that are getting their slap on the wrist.
Yeah, and that hurts themselves, right? So one of the things that I've seen a couple of videos talked about in the past is the ADS, the average day supply. And people are thinking this was something specifically for Corvette, and it's not. So the ADS is something that's done on every single car that General Motors sells. It doesn't matter if it's a Chevy Cruze or a truck or a Corvette. That's how General Motors gives their allocations to dealers. So everybody's like, oh, they're bringing out this ADS to harm them. No, it's not. It's just normal on every third year of a new product, especially on Corvette. So the biggest question is GM actually going to enforce this? And I don't think they will, unless it gets like crazy out of hand. But here's the thing of why they won't enforce it, because you as a consumer, me as a consumer, if I choose not to spend $20,000, $35,000 over MSRP, I'm just going to walk away, complain on the internet some, maybe call General Motors and complain. That does absolutely no good on all those cases. And there's going to be somebody behind me that's willing to pay that money, and there's nothing that they can do. So
that's true. And I think the biggest problem comes down to how to enforce it. Because if dealers start being quiet about charging over MSRP, it comes down to consumers to complain, and or the GM reps that are in those dealerships all the time to turn around and tattle on their dealerships they, work with.
Yep.
And stuff. So somebody has to, do something, because does GM see every bill of sale and see that you sat there and charged 30 grand over?
Nope. So, and then also, dealerships are at liberty to charge for extra items, secure etch, data dot, pinstriping, stuff like that. And the dealership may charge $25,000 for a pinstripe, right? That's, again, it's unethical, but it's not unlawful, because if somebody's willing to pay $30,000 for a gold pinstripe on a car that comes right off, then they chose to do that. But the key is somebody had sent me this picture here, and they're pretty much dead on. One of the reasons I left the dealership is because I think it is 100% unethical to charge over MSRP for a car. I understand that 2020 and 2021 brought some really unique situations that the car business has never seen, and maybe just a smidge over, but I felt uncomfortable after making my video last year in July that when the dealership says, hey, we're going to be start charging over MSRP and we're not going to promise MSRP, and I found that the general sales manager didn't have my back and was putting the blame on me for offering MSRP when I wasn't authorized. That's one of the reasons I left the dealership, because I think my ethics and what I have in my heart of how I want to treat people is far greater than selling a Corvette. And that's what's going to take to do this, is dealerships having something inside them say, we got to treat people right.
I mean, the other thing is, it comes down to, where's that profit going? it's going right into the dealer's
It's
pocket.
it's
It's not going anywhere else but the dealer's pocket.
It's not coming to the salespeople. So dealerships all across the country are cheap selling their salespeople. They're only giving them a $500 commission when they should be getting thousands of dollars of commissions because they didn't do the work or whatever. They find a loophole to do that as well. So it's all. The dealerships are always going to win. It's like Vegas. The dealerships are always going to win, and the little people, salespeople, and consumers are always going to lose. But that's why we own our own dealership, so we can get big and have our own dealership and do things the right way down the road. And when letters like this come out, we look at them and we're like, cool. We're not doing any of that stuff. We don't need to worry about it or anything like that. So let us know what you think on how GM should actually enforce these rules, and not just like, hey, pull their allocations or pull their dealer agreement. What other ways can be uniquely done to punish these dealers and to enforce good consumer ethical and lawful transactions across the country? And of course, if you got a complaint, the best thing to do is contact General Motors customer support number, which I'll throw down in the description. And I look forward to all of your comments.